Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video. My name is Justin, and today I wanted to talk about finding love and peace in a world of chaos. Now, love and peace are things we all seek. We do it through relationships, we do it through maybe hobbies that we have. We do it through all kinds of different ways, all kinds of different measures to find a bit of love and peace in this world full of wickedness and chaos. And what's important here is to allow yourself to find it. And to allow yourself to find it means getting out of your own way. And actually, it's a process that involves a lot more than just, reading a book every once in a while or, just going to the gym every once in a while, or maybe 7 times a week, or maybe if you were like as fanatic as I was, 12 times a week. Love and peace, they're very great things. They're very powerful things that we actually need to do a lot of work for to fully allow it into our lives. And today I'm going to talk about that. I've wrote down some things that are from what I've known, from what I've experienced, and from the wisdom of God that I have been able to research and been given some things that are important to do to allow yourself to be in a state of love, in a state of peace again. Now, before I talk about any of the things that I wrote down, let me reassure the fact that love and peace is within your grasp. It is within you. And no matter what you're going through, you can always find it. Now, if you're walking a path with God, which I hope you are, love and peace aren't strange things to you. Or maybe they are. Maybe you haven't been given the love and the peace. But even when you're walking with God, it is important to understand that for you to be in a state of love and for you especially to be in a state of peace, there are some things that you need to learn or you need to unlearn to allow yourself to be in that state. So even if you ask God for peace and love to come into your life, maybe you already have, and right now you're in a stage where you're learning, or maybe things are getting more chaotic within yourself in your life. It's because you need to learn how to be in love, how to be in peace. So, with that being said, the first thing that I've written down that I think is very important to allow yourself to be in a state of love, in a state of peace, is detaching from the worldly things. So, detaching from the world. We live in a world where we are constantly under attack, in the sense of we are constantly being pulled away from ourselves. There's constantly something that is trying to get your attention, trying to get you to do something, trying to move you someplace, trying to touch you emotionally, constantly trying to impact you. And especially these days with the technology that we have with social media, you're just scrolling, and constantly you're being programmed, not in a sense of conspiracy, but you are feeding your mind with certain things, feeding your heart with certain things. And these days, especially, we barely have control over what we feed ourselves when it comes to our attention, when it comes to what we let inside of our hearts, inside of our minds, what we think about. And if you want to find love and peace, you're gonna have to be able to detach from not only the outside, the external inputs that you get, but also the internal things that you are doing. Because to detach from something means you are attached to something. You're attached to maybe a way of thinking. You're attached to maybe that TikTok or Instagram or any kind of other social media or entertainment. You're attached to that because it's doing something for you. But maybe the thing that it's doing for you, what you're focused on. So let's say you're on TikTok, you're trying to be entertained, or you just want to have a good laugh, or you just want to go burn out some time. TikTok is a great platform to do that. I'm not saying it's not, but at the same time, you're getting a lot of different impulses into your mind, into your brain that you're feeding yourself, and that can cause you to maybe be all over the place at a certain point. It's proven that it literally makes your attention span a lot and a lot lower. And attention focus is something that is so important in life that this can be very detrimental for your path in your journey in life towards peace, towards love. And if you are serious about seeking it, you need to learn how to detach. So the first step of detachment is understanding who you are, which is also something that I wrote down. And I talk about this a lot. I've said it a lot of times on this channel already. And in my day to day life, I keep on saying this, but you are not your thoughts. You are not your mind. You are not your emotion. You are not your ego. You are not your body. And if you were to go on a similar journey that I went on a lot of years ago and go through all of these parts of yourself one by one, really question them, analyze them, go deep within, you can find out for yourself that they are part of your human existence, but they're not essentially who you are. Let's talk about the body for a minute. Are you right now controlling all the processes that are going on inside of your body? Meaning your blood flow, meaning keeping your heart pumping, meaning your breath. Now, your breath is something that we are very conscious of, but we don't usually think about the breath too much. At least not as much as we should. But what I'm trying to say here is that your body is doing a lot of things that you are unaware of right now in this moment. And if it wouldn't be doing that, you would be dead. You would literally just die right now, fall to the ground, because your body is actually an insanely highly intelligent system that is keeping itself alive, that is able to grow, that's able to be resilient, that is able to adapt and do so many things to let us experience this life. But what I'm getting at here is that we don't have full control over our bodies. Now, that means that our bodies are a tool or a vessel or a vehicle that we get to use to walk through this life. But that's also the same for the other parts of our existence, like our minds. We talk a lot about having mental control, but the number one thing that people find out after they try to get more or better mental management and mental control is that we don't really control our thoughts too much. We control our response to them. Same with our feelings. Especially with our feelings, we cannot control what we feel, but we can control our response to our feelings. And when it comes to thoughts, of course, you can have an entire dialogue in your thoughts. You can intently think about something, yes. But also in our mind, we get a lot of thoughts that we didn't really intend to have. For example, intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts, it's a very funny thing on the internet that people talk about, but it's a real thing that we have. Just a thought that pops out of nowhere. Or maybe you get an idea out of nowhere, or you see an image that just it pops out of nowhere. What I'm trying to say is, as much as people advocate having full mental control, we don't have full mental control. Also because the mind is a lot more than just your thoughts. But we'll get into that in maybe another video, because that is a very deep topic that I really like to talk about. But for now, you just have to kind of start understanding that you are not your mind, you are not your body, you are not your feelings, and also not your ego. Because a lot of people confuse ego with character, but ego is not a self sustaining thing. Ego is not the character that you essentially, in your essence, are. Ego is something that is feeding itself upon your failures, upon your successes, and it's keeping you in a cycle of failure and success so it can sustain itself and stay alive. So, now that I briefly went through the human system, understanding who you are, meaning who you are beyond all of that, beyond your mind, beyond your body, beyond your emotion, beyond your ego, even beyond your soul. You're a spirit. And this spirit is essentially you, your essence. It is what is kind of deciding over all of the things that I just talked about, over the pillars, over the parts of your existence right now. It is within your spirit that if something changes there, all else will change. Your mind will change, your body will change, your emotion will change, your consciousness will change. Now, getting back to being so distracted in this life and having so many external inputs and external pulses that just come in and try to take away your attention. Why I said that focus and attention is so important is because in life we don't get taught how to take our attention, go within ourselves, and use it intently. We get taught how to take our attention, study things about the world, and make a career, make a living, be a part of society, which is also important. You need to be able to live in society, or you want to get off grid and go ahead and do that. That's also fine. But there is a lack of focus of really the internal part of our system. And this lack of focus can easily cause a lot of chaos, a lot of I don't know what's going on in my life anymore, a lot of pain, even a lot of suffering. In fact, it is creating a lot of suffering. And right now, in this time where you might find yourself seeking out love, seeking out peace, the only way to really do that is by facing the chaos as a force of order. And if you want to face your chaos, you've detached from all the suffering, you've detached from the comfortability of negative thinking, of sadness, of anger. You've detached from that, meaning that you're no longer dependent on those things to feel like you can move on, feel like you can be comfortable. You've found out, or you've realized that you are not your mind, your thoughts, your emotion, your ego, and that you're something beyond that, so that you can now detach from those patterns and start seeing the parts of your system as exactly that, the parts of your system. So now that you are facing negative thoughts, facing negative emotions, facing negative situations in your life, you no longer face them as a conditioned person, conditioned by the world, but you face them as somebody that is using their intention to change what is going on. So, for example, let's say you have a habit of thinking really negatively on yourself when you fail, or having this fear of failure because you always beat yourself up for it. It could be very well that you think this is just the way you are. This is just who you are, somebody that hates failure and that will beat themselves up for that failure. But if you done all that I just said, you've detached, you realized who you are, and now you want to go ahead and change that into being able to fail and not beat yourself up for it, but instead giving yourself a loving push towards, learning from the failure. It is so much easier now to do such a thing now that you understand that you are not the patterns that are in your life or in yourself. You are not the patterns of your mind. So, all there is for you to do is put your attention to, why it's going on, and start to understand this pattern. And you will naturally start to understand this pattern just by focusing on it. And that's why it's important to not let your attention span drop down to a 0.2 second max time. But it's important to be able to put your attention to that and also question it, write down questions about it. You can even seek help and, go to therapy, or maybe just do research online about how these things work. But it is really a powerful and important step to finding love and peace in this world, it is really a important step to kind of, I wouldn't say figure it out for yourself, but at the same time, it is important for you to reflect on it yourself and really be honest with yourself, go within and question it yourself. That is very important to do, because in that manner you will do it from a place of truth, because it's the truth that is inside of you. Now, speaking about truth, of course, I am a man of God, and God for me is the truth, the way, and the life. And it's for me important to recognize that, like, don't go seeking your own truth necessarily, but seek the truth of what is going on with yourself. And to do that, that's a process of using your attention intentfully. So, okay, now we have detached from ourselves. We have maybe found a couple of things in ourselves that we'd like to change, like maybe our bodies, we want to change how we look, or maybe we want to change how we think, or we just want to change how we feel. That there's a lot of chaos going on inside of your mind, maybe, and you want to go ahead and change that. Okay, so now we're questioning our mind. We're starting to understand where these patterns of chaos are coming from, and essentially we're making use of what we have, because in order for us to use the parts of ourselves, our tools, because the mind is a tool, to use that properly, we need to understand how it works. We can't just go ahead and press a couple of buttons and try to see how, or just try some shit and hope that it all finds its place. I mean, we can do that, but it won't really work. You have to really start to understand your mind. You have to understand your body. You have to understand your feelings. And as I said, we are now a force of order, meaning we are intentfully focusing on what we want to change, to put it into order, to not really gain control of it, but to use it and not be used by it, not to use your mind so you won't be used by your mind. So now that we've done all that, this is, by the way, a long process. For some, this will be a lot easier because maybe you're a little bit more self-conscious, or you've done these kinds of things before. For others, this might be completely new and you lack a complete awareness of yourself. And if so, I encourage you even more to take your attention, go into your room, and just sit there and see what your system is doing. Like, literally just focus on what your system is doing, write it down, question it. It's a really important and powerful thing to do. But okay, we've done all of that. Now let's talk about really going within to create the new, essentially new you. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say the new you. You can, of course, recreate yourself if that's what you really want to do, but going within to create is also about creating, change in your life, or creating essentially some part of yourself and working that out onto the world. Maybe you found like, or you feel like you've found some new parts of yourself and you want to express that to the world, and you want to work with that and make something out of it. Because what I also need you to understand is that you're not just now a force of order, but you're somebody that can create. You're a force of creativity. We're all a force of creativity. Even if you feel like you're not really creative, you are creating everything in your life on the daily. You're creating everything that is going on in your system on the daily, and you're doing that through your spirit. So, understanding and realizing that we are the spirit, it is important to now be conscious of the way that we create, and be conscious of what our creations do for us, because a lot of the times we are creating sometimes even very negative things in our life, because, like I said, it's a form of attachment. You're attached to it. You're attached to the comfortability. You might be attached to the comfortability of feeling sad and being depressed. That might be a reality, which can be a hard pill to swallow. So if it is for you, I'm sorry for you to hear it, but I'm happy that you are hearing it, because it is the truth that is going on, that you might just be in this state of chaos because it's all you know. And for me, that was for a long time how I was living. I was attached to the chaos. My only way of living was going through the chaos, using chaos, and allowing chaos into myself so I can kind of overcome it. That was the way that I was living, but I never did it from a place of love. I always did it from a place of chaos and hatred and anger. And now, I've made the switch from allowing all this chaos into my life to seeing the chaos and putting it into order. And it's such a wonderful experience because now I don't want to necessarily say that I have control over my life, but I can at least, use all of myself properly in a way towards purpose and fulfillment and love and peace. So again, if you're walking a path with God and you've been asking for love and peace, it is important to understand that it does require work. It's not just, God won't just always give you love and peace. Actually, he will probably give you the flip side. He will allow more chaos into your life so you can learn how to manage it and deal with it. So now that we are able to create, we understand more of ourselves. We understand essentially what our kingdom is, because your system is the kingdom of God. Like it is your mind, all of that combined, all of your mind, your body, your emotion, your consciousness, that is the kingdom of God. And you're essentially, if you let God into your life, that's what he's gonna, build at. We are now creating. You're now in the process of creating better things into your life. You're in the process of, maybe you've changed the way you think and now you're creating better scenarios in your life, or you're interacting with things a bit different. You're starting to see things differently. Your perspective on certain things is changing. If you really go through this process, you'll go from the example that I used before, this is just the way I am, to no, this is what I allowed myself to be. That is a huge shift in your perspective. And once you've experienced that once, now you understand the power of changing your perspective. Because essentially, your perspective is the driving force of which you use your creativity. And I hope I'm not getting, too vague about this, or I'm not talking in a manner where this won't really, resonate. But I'm trying to say it as simply as possible here, because it can come across as maybe a very complex thing. But let me say it again. Your perspective is the driving force and direction in which you use your creativity. So if you have a certain perspective on maybe a scenario that is going on in your life, maybe your job, you have a certain perspective about your job. You see your job as something that is very draining and straining, and something that is, really just taking a toll on you because you are experiencing certain emotions, feelings, and thoughts that are negative from working, from the job that you're doing. Now that we essentially are able to create, I'm not saying that you should stay at the job and just, continue working until you fall down, but maybe it is possible for you to make it a bit easier on yourself by changing the way that you look at your job. Because if you only see your job as something that is really just taking a toll on you, that's exactly what it will do. But if you start to shift your perspective to this job maybe being a stepping stone for you to learn how to better use the system that you have so you can come out stronger, or maybe develop some skills internally, stress management, or maybe emotional management or emotional regulation, that you can learn these things from this job. Now the entirety of how you interact with your job is changed, and you will start to create, not only within yourself but also outside of yourself, scenarios where you can now start to build this perspective up, where you can now start to build yourself up, because now your job is kind of like an obstacle, kind of like a challenge that can teach you more. Instead of taking everything out of you, it's now teaching you something. So that's just an example of how changing your perspective can really help to use your creative force in a positive manner. Now, that being said, again, it is important to ask guidance from God and ask yourself also what it is you really want to do and where you feel like your purpose lies, because purpose is a very important thing, especially as you are getting more powerful and especially as you are, learning how to use your system a bit better. It is important to understand that you have a purpose, and the purpose will be the most fulfilling thing for your life. So don't go using all of this information or using, this to create more chaos for yourself or to stray away from essentially who you are, which is my next topic, which I actually didn't wrote down, but it is important to talk about. Stay close to who you are. Now that you are going deep within yourself and you're finding out more about yourself, you're changing the way you think, or you're changing the way you feel, or you're changing certain situations in your life, and you understand that you are this deep force within, beyond all of the things that you previously thought you were. You found a new depth of who you are. It is important to stay close to who you are. Meaning, don't use all of this to essentially be someone that you're not. There will always be a fundamental part of you. Your character will always be there, and it will always tell you the truth about yourself. And it's important to listen to this truth. For me, I found my identity in God and in serving God and serving others, and this is a part of that. But it's also important for me to recognize the things that I like, the things that, make me, and the things that are within me so I can express them. This is just a big part that's within me that I express right now, and by staying close to myself, by just being myself, I've noticed that authenticity is the most powerful tool you have to use. That is what I'm trying to say. Authenticity is the most powerful tool next to love. So by staying authentic, you will naturally find peace and love, because authenticity means living as you are, living who you are, and that will bring a lot of peace into your life, and it will also give you the chance to love yourself, or to focus on the love that is there for you, because you are very loved, and by being authentic, you can start to understand how you're loved, why you're loved, and you can start to see the love that is in your life. And a big part of finding love and peace, but especially love, is just seeing the love that is already there. Even if you're all alone right now, you are very loved. And, the world will always tell you, love yourself. But it won't tell you that loving yourself means allowing love to flow towards you and allowing love into your heart. And a lot of the times, when we're living difficult lives, when we're living through a lot of obstacles, through a lot of trials and tribulations, we kind of forget that love even exists. And we certainly don't want to allow it back into our lives, because love maybe led up to a lot of pain. It led you to a lot of pain in your life, making it extremely hard for you to, allow it back. But now that you are going on this process of detaching, of creating, of changing your perspectives, maybe it's time for you to let that love back into your life. And God loves you like no other. That there isn't a better or a truer love than the love from God. But there's also a lot of people on this earth that genuinely love you. I don't know you. You're watching this video right now. I don't know you. I can't say that you're my friend, but I can say that I do genuinely love you. Meaning that if I were to come across to you on the street and you ask me if I loved you, or you, want to have a conversation with me, or had anything that you want to talk to me about, I would give love to you, because I already love you. We are all connected at the end of the day, whether you believe it or not. But yeah, talking about letting love into your life, let's talk about seeking help. Now, seeking help for me personally was something that I didn't really do in my entire journey. Well, not my entire journey, but for like 99% of my journey, I was not seeking help because I always had this idea, this perspective that I was in it all alone and that there was nobody that could, help me or save me in my journey, or that there was nobody that could really understand me or give me the advice that I needed. So I always did everything alone. At least, I thought that I was doing everything alone. Now that I, have kind of made a deep relationship with God, I understood that He was always there guiding my life, but I never acknowledged it. And in the time that I was feeling so alone, so alone on this world, like I didn't even belong here, I never sought help, but I always strive to help myself. And whatever I was dealing with, I always took whatever time I needed to help myself go through it and do whatever is necessary. And this is not an easy thing to do, don't get me wrong. It's just that the spirit that I got given was naturally inclined to do whatever it took to survive and to overcome what was in my life. But not everybody has that. And it's okay to seek help. It's okay to, you know, go to someone, go to therapy, or just seek help from maybe me or some other people that you can talk to or ask questions to. That's a perfectly fine thing to do. So don't be ashamed to seek help with whatever you're dealing with as you are going on this journey of realizing who you are and changing your perspective. It's I talk about it with all of its power and with all of the things that it can do for you. But it can also be a very intimidating thing. It can be very scary to learn how much creativity or how much you are actually already creating in your life. It can be very scary to uncover parts of yourself that were maybe locked away for years and that are now coming to the surface. That can be a very scary and intimidating thing. And if it so happens that you are intimidated or maybe even overwhelmed by this journey, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to stand still for a little bit. Go talk to your friends about it. Go talk to maybe a family member. Go talk to somebody that can, that you can just vent to. That's all right. Go seek help. I encourage you to do so. And of course, our Heavenly Father, God, is always there to help you. So maybe you never prayed before, but I do encourage you to try out prayer, even if it's just talking all of the things that are going on inside of your heart, even if it's just spitting that out. That's already such a healing and such a wonderful experience. Talking to God, without even getting something back, it's already helping you. It's already helping you release whatever it is that is troubling you. So I do encourage you to do that. Now, things are changing for you as they were changing for me. I understood now that my creative force is a very powerful thing, that I can actually make change and bring change into my life and into my system by changing my perspective and confronting, facing the chaos. That's a very powerful thing. Now you understand that you actually have the ability to make change or to direct or to go towards something, in this case, love and peace. And now that you're understanding that you have the ability to create peace and to allow love into your life and to create loving scenarios and love within your relationship, within your life, now it's time to make a plan to persevere. Because, at least for me, even though now that you might have done this for a little bit and you are seeing the changes in your life, you're talking to God, you're feeling more peace, you're feeling more love, it is very easy to just kind of sit in that comfortability, sit in the comfortability of the peace that you now have. And it's also very easy to be tempted again to fall off this path and to lose the peace and to lose the love. And what happens when you lose all the love that you've built or all the peace that you've built for yourself and you get shaken up again, what happens then? You know, it can be very soul crushing. I'll tell you, it can be very soul crushing to have to start over again once you finally felt like you found a grip on things, a grip on the love and the peace in your life. You found a grip to it. Not saying that you control it, but you found a way to bring it into your life through God, of course, or just through this process. And thing is, we don't control anything in our lives, to be honest. We create and we manage, but control, we control maybe like 2% of what is actually going on in our lives. So it might be very possible for you that your life gets shaken up, but now it is important to make a plan and persevere, or making a plan to persevere, and not letting maybe a big burst of chaotic enmity, not letting that destroy and take you away from all that you have now built up, because that is something that can happen more easy than you think. And I'm not saying that to scare you, but I am saying that to make you understand that it's important to build a base, a fundament that you can always fall on. And of course, God just kind of fixes this problem. When in my journey I'm looking at it now, I made countless of pages of my fundamentals that I would always fall on and I would rely on, that I would lean on. But if you're walking the path with God, God is always there. So if you fall, you can always go to God and always go to that piece of grace, of love, of peace that God is giving you and has for you. You can take refuge in Him. You can go to God's stronghold and just find all that you need right there, wherever you are, in whatever moment, in whatever is going on in your life. So, I'm very blessed to now understand this, to now realize that a relationship with God can bring you all of that. Because all that I've talked about now is things that you can do to, realize who you are, use your creative force, but you won't ever truly succeed if you're not allowing God to help you with it. Because, God is the God of love, is the God of peace, is the God of all things that are good. So if you want to create good into your life, you're going to need a relationship with God. And I'm not saying you need to be religious necessarily, but build a relationship with God. Build a relationship with the source of love. Build a relationship with the source of truth, with the source of peace. Because then the source, God, can guide you in your life towards peace and towards love. So that's also very important for me to know. Now, I just talked about the chaos that maybe breaks out into your life again, even after you've built peace and love into your life. Because it's very possible that it will also, I'm kind of 100% certain of it, that it will happen for me in my life as well. Even though I've already, if you watch my testimony, my entire life has been focused on making it through the chaos and embracing suffering. I've already suffered most of my life and dealt with a lot of things. I'm sure that even now still there will come a moment or multiple moments in my life where things might just become too much and I might be overwhelmed and the chaos might break out again and maybe not take me over, but be more than I can handle. I'm sure that's going to happen. So knowing that God is always there and that I can rely on Him is a very, comforting thing, but it's also a thing that just gives me the Godfidence, as I like to call it, the Godfidence to just go and strive for whatever it is that I want to go for, So that's a bit about, the relationship that I have with God right now and how that's great. But let's talk about allowing pain and emotions without being consumed by them, which is something that maybe I should have talked about earlier in this video or podcast as it's turning out. I don't know. Let me actually check. I've been talking 40 minutes already. Hasn't felt like that at all. But maybe I should have talked about this a little bit earlier, because this is something that you will need to know how to do if you want to step up and change the way that your system is, I mean, essentially working or programmed, if you will. Now, like I said at the very beginning, detachment is important. You are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, you are not your feelings. So pain is also not you. Do not make pain your identity. It's something that is in you that you can work with and that you can change or that you can alchemize to something good. Yes, that's exactly what pain is, but it's not your identity. I always thought I was here on this earth to suffer, to just suffer, to embrace my suffering, to learn whatever I can from suffering and give that to the world. And I mean, some way I've learned a lot. I've, gained a lot of wisdom over the years, but no more than the wisdom of God. So, you don't need to embrace, or, well, embracing suffering for the good, for, good things, that's fine. If you want to go ahead and maybe build a business or something, there's going to come some sacrifice and some suffering with that, which is fine. So for suffering for something is essentially fine, but embracing the suffering and making that your identity, that's a dangerous thing that you don't want to do. It's not going to bring any peace or any love in your life by being a monster, a tyrant that just goes through suffering every day. Now, that being said, if you are maybe in a state of depression or in a state of, a lot of chaos in your life, you will have to go through a lot of suffering. But it's important to understand, like I said, that you aren't the suffering and that you can allow the pain and your emotions to be there, and even maybe sometimes allow a couple of minutes to allow yourself to have some negative thoughts, but to pick up the pace after that, because your mind is mighty powerful. So is your tongue. So, it's okay to sometimes have a bit of negative thoughts, and it's definitely okay to have some negative feelings, but don't let it consume you. Don't let that consume you. Give yourself some time to let it be, to understand that it's there, acknowledge it, and understand that it's also taking its course to leave. Because just like your body is made to heal, your body heals itself when it's under ailments, when it's under sickness. At least it does its best to heal itself. So is your mind. The entire human system can heal itself, or can be healed through God, if we just allow it to be. And usually also when we ask God for healing, he is actually not just right away healing you, but he's removing the blockages towards the healing. At least for me, that's always how I've experienced healing, by just removing what is blocking the healing and then just letting the healing come. And my father always said, what isn't there cannot go. So if you don't allow the pain and don't allow negative emotions to be there, it cannot leave. It cannot go nowhere, So it's important to let it be there whilst not being consumed by these things. And you can do that just by, going through the detachments, but also by maybe writing down what you're going through, talking about what you're going through with God, with a friend, with a family member, allowing it to leave, allowing it to be expressed, just allow yourself to let it out. It's very important throughout this entire journey of finding love and peace. Now, time to build up your kingdom. Like I said, the human system, the vehicle, everything that you're experiencing right now, that's the kingdom of God. That's where God, wants to make his home, and in unity with all of each other, that's when we truly build up the kingdom. But building up your own kingdom right now, or not your own kingdom, building up the kingdom of God right now, building up your system to be what it's supposed to be. I mean, oh, I'm getting really, really excited about this, because building up your system is such a beautiful thing. Building up the kingdom of God is such a beautiful thing. And it's done by, standing in your authenticity, so staying close to yourself. It's done by understanding essentially what your system is, what it does, and how you can, manage and use it. And essentially, it's everything that I've talked about so far. With God, of course, also, because if you want to build the kingdom of God, you got to have a relationship with God. But it's just about, Building up the kingdom is a process of, I'd say, understanding. It's a process of understanding that you need to go through certain things and where these things are coming from, and understanding that maybe even the perspectives that you have might not always be the right perspective, and understanding that failure is something that you can learn from. It's essentially everything put together, and also with each other, not just only yourself. This is also coming to the people that are around you. Building your kingdom is essentially just everything put together in this journey of understanding, where you can do it with love and peace. Because even when now, you should be at a point right now, if you want to build up the kingdom, you should be at a point right now where even if things are not going your way, or life is against you, or you're facing a lot of hardship or a lot of trials and tribulations, even if all of that is going on, you still have the peace of knowing that it's building you up. You still have the peace of knowing that even now you are still loved, even when you might be facing health problems or whatever it is you're facing, you are still loved. That will give you a natural sense of peace. And like I said, it's okay to allow yourself to feel the pain, feel the negative emotions. It's okay to do that, but always keep that fundamental understanding that peace and love is always within grasp. And what I talked about previously, finding love and peace, is the journey of understanding who you are, using your system, going through that's a very important part of this. But now that you've went through that, and maybe you are at the stage where you've already went through that, and you want to, hold on to it, first of all, don't attach yourself to love and peace, because attaching yourself to love and peace will cause you to be dependent on it. And even though it's something that is always there, I wouldn't necessarily say it's healthy to be dependent on these things, because it can lead to kind of the same thing as addiction, where you are constantly searching for that thing. But sometimes it's also important to focus on some other things that are in your life. You don't always want to have full attention on love and peace, because sometimes you just need to get stuff done, and you can do that with love, and you can do that in a state of peace. But it's important to allow yourself to also, do whatever you got to do. So yeah, building up the kingdom, it's just everything together, being fundamentally and standing 10 toes down, standing strong in what you've done so far, in what you've realized so far, in your relationship with God, in your relationship with love and peace, staying fundamentally strong in that. And even when you are feeling so chaotic, understanding that you are building yourself up, or you are being built, So in this process, it's also important to make sacrifices. You will have to make some sacrifices for the things that really matter. You will need to be disciplined. You will need to make sacrifices to get certain stuff done, or do certain things, or allow yourself to be in certain positions. Sacrifices will always come. And don't let the sacrifices that you make rip you away from your love and your peace. So we've talked about, how to gain or how to find love and peace. Now we're talking about persevering it. And this is kind of the plan. And the plan is different for everybody, whatever you've learned along the way of this process. By the way, I'm talking about it now in like an hour, but this is well, for me, it was a very long process, a very painful process as well. It doesn't have to be as long and as painful, but chances are, if you really want to go ahead and do this entire thing, you will either come back to this podcast multiple times, or come back to my videos, as I will keep on talking about this, or you will, kind of come back to something that is helping you, or something that is, encouraging you or inspiring you to go through this process a lot of times. Because like I said, I'm talking about it in an hour now, but it took me like 16 years to really get this down. So yeah, sacrifice is an essential part of also building up your kingdom, building up your life, and letting yourself be built. So don't let that destroy everything that is going on right now, and don't let that frighten you in that sense. There will be a lot of fear that comes in this journey. You Not only from things that could go wrong, but also from things that could go right. A lot of us are actually afraid of what we are actually capable of and what we actually are. We are afraid of that, of the beautiful part of ourselves, of the powerful part of ourselves. A lot of us are afraid of that. And one sec. Had to drink some water really quick. But a lot of us are afraid of that. And it's important to not let that fear stop you or hold you back, because you're not doing yourself a solid at that point. You're dampening yourself, you're dampening your light, and you should never be doing that, because there's no need to do that. And fear is a bad mediator, so don't listen to fear. We're getting towards the end of this podcast, as it turned out to be. And last two things I wanted to talk about was allowing change in your life and in yourself, and being grateful. Because as you are going on this journey and things are changing, and maybe it's changing sometimes beyond what you've expected it to be, because you will always be surprised in life. You will always be surprised in life. Things will never go exactly the way as you imagined them. At least not everything will go exactly the way that you imagined them. So allow the change in your life to happen, even when you don't fully know how that's going to affect you, in the sense that you, at this point, should already know, right, that you're going towards the right direction. You've already done so much, in your life to understand yourself, to walk a path of love and peace and go towards purpose. And when you know that you are going this direction, allow the change in your life and also in yourself. So allow maybe a change of heart or a change of mind or a change of whatever it is, a change of patterns to come towards you, even now in this time of your life, even now that you've already went through so much change. Allow change to keep on going, because change is something that is always going on. Now, God won't change. God will always stay the same and will stay solid. So, God is a great foundation to fall back on in this life of change. But keep allowing change in your life. And the last part that I wanted to talk about is just being grateful. Being grateful for not only yourself for allowing this to happen and allowing yourself to make change and allow change, but also being grateful, for all the pain, for everything that is going on in your life, even the most traumatic experiences. Be grateful of those. Not in the sense that, you want to create more of that into your life, but be grateful that, first of all, you're still here. Be grateful that you're alive today. Be grateful that, if you're watching this part of the podcast, be grateful that you made it so far and that you're taking the time to listen to something that might be valuable for you and your life and your loved ones and your relationships. Be grateful for God, for all that He is and all that He does on a day-to-day basis. Just be grateful. It's a very important thing to be grateful about everything that is going on, because being grateful, in this modern day, people say that being grateful creates more of what you're grateful for, but being grateful is more than that. Being grateful is just, it's looking at everything that is going on and also seeing it in a different light. Because if you're grateful for whatever is going on, even if it's negative, you can never be controlled by the things that you are grateful for. Because if you're not genuinely grateful for it, then maybe. But if you're genuinely grateful for everything that you're grateful for, you won't be controlled by those things. You won't be taken over by those things, except for God, of course, if that's what you really want. Understand that you always have free will. So, me talking about God, you always have free will to do whatever it is that you want to do. But yeah, I think that about concludes what I wanted to talk about today. Now, I don't know exactly how this video will turn out or how this podcast will turn out, I don't even know if I'm gonna post this yet because I've just been really speaking from the heart, and maybe this is not really the most structured way to talk about it, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I kind of at this point have enough faith and have enough confidence to know that maybe I should just go ahead and put this out. So if you're still here, if you've listened to this entire thing, first of all, thank you very much, and thank yourself. Thank you very much, and thank yourself for, like I said, listening to something that might bring value to your life. I hope that this helped you in any kind of way. I hope that I touched some points that you can go forward from. And I hope also that if you are in a dark place right now, this has maybe given you hope and also an idea of how to move forward in this darkness and how to actually find love and peace in this world of chaos. So with that being said, this is the end of the video. I will be posting more of all that I've learned, all that I've known, and all that I can think of that can help in any situation in life. So if you want more of that, please make sure to subscribe. Please make sure to hit that thumbs up button, as it is a very helpful thing towards the channel. And I will see you guys soon in another video. Stay close to yourself. Peace.